Good morning. Welcome to this morning's Wuxing, Long Pai, Qigong, Taijiquan, and Baguazhang. This morning we're going to study a little bit of Yichuan, which translates to mind boxing. But it's the way I kind of approached my Tai Chi, which is this idea of how intent shapes movement and the Qi flow of that movement that backs it up. And so we're going to kind of explore that a little bit today in some of our practices. Now, we're still going to be doing the things we've been doing. The forms are going to look the same, but what we're going to do is we're going to take this kind of utilizing our intent to create the action and trying to understand what that intent is and how it changes the body-mind structure, and the way we form. The intent is a huge part of the real operation of what's going on underneath the forms of Tai Chi. And so understanding intent, or Yi, is important. And so we're going to examine it just a little bit. We've been doing it all along, by the way. When you're doing things like Ling Kong Jing and you have that intent of gentle pressure, but you're trying to also neutralize, imagining that resistance as you move, that is all a way that we explore intent and its action and reaction, and how little modifications in intent, such as not just pushing out, but neutralizing while we expand, which is very different from pushing outward. We have to adjust the way we go about things, which changes the way that, if we change our intent, the body changes with it. And little minute changes in intent can create massive changes in the way the body acts. And that's part of why we want to examine it. So we're going to do some of that today in our practice of working with these first 8 forms. Okay? So we start off, feet shoulder width and parallel. Right, the first intent we really learn about is this Zhongding, right, this central equilibrium, this sense of extending up, receiving from below, opening up the back, getting a powerful and clear, upright center line. That's a Tongmai, and the extension of Zhongding is its own intent, and it's the very first intent we have to kind of perfect in our Tai Chi. So I'm going to rest my hands on my dantian. I'm putting them in here because it's quite chilly this morning. I'll be able to move inside at some point, just not sure when. And until then, I'm going to be out here in the cold. So hopefully you guys are in a nice, warm, snug place. But if not, just concentrate the chi inward and warm the center and warm the extremities on the center. So tongue lightly touches the roof of the mouth, central equilibrium. Feel the triangles of the feet. Align the center line, drop the tailbone. Sink into the legs just a little. Move up and down at the very beginning just to really centralize and make sure I've got the appropriate relationship here where my weight is going down in my feet. I'm not going sinking back into my heels or rolling into the balls of my feet. And my intentions. So up and down helps me kind of target that center of the triangle of the foot and use it as a fulcrum to activate the bubbling well point. And then get that gentle jing draw, that Taijiquan, where I pull up on the pelvic floor gently, gather towards the lower dantian. front of the lower dantian and with our expansion. Now when I inhale, I'm going to condense and compress as though I'm drawing inward and condensing on the inhale and releasing outward on the exhale. We're going to bounce. Counter swing. Column swing. One of the ways in this we begin to explore yi or intent is the idea of how we're spiraling the right and left channels. If we're spiraling outward to inward through these right and left channels, it naturally creates this movement where the arms turn palm up, upward movement, and then when we spiral the opposite way on the down, they come like this, coming down. So right now I'm hooking the spiral out, rotation out, to the upward expansion, or outward expansion. Inward spiral to the upward receiving. And up like this. Palms up, palms up. if I reverse that, if instead I focus on the inward spiral on the up, let's go this way, naturally. And then when I focus on the spiral out, roll open. So playing around with these changing intents in just action begins to give us our first inkling of how changing something subtle, as even the timing of intent, right? We're not changing the intent itself because we're still doing the same action, but we're changing the timing of the intent, and that changes the whole body motion. Not only does it change the whole body motion, but what you want to do is learn to feel how it changes the internal feeling in the right and left channels, in the way force flows through the body, because different tissues are activating. So there's a different exchange of energy as we concentrate energy through compression in some places and through release in others. Same with counter columns. Now, one of the things you have to become aware of, part of the study here, is learning how your body is responding to the intent you're creating and whether all the pieces of the intent are staying intact. For example, I should always have Zhongding, and that center line during this practice is trying to remain very close to the center point between the two triangles of the feet. So I'm not drifting left and right doing this, switching back and forth, but instead staying in the middle, which forces me to change the way I interact with the yin and yang changes inside as I rotate. I have to make sure I truly let go equally, that I become very receptive on this side here and very expansive on that side in contrast, so that I balance, and this is where it becomes Taiji. The understanding of your Yi helps you to maintain Taiji, which is the unification of yin and yang. Changing. Notice how it changes. I don't know if you're noticing, but at these various points, I'm expanding. There's an extension. There's a sense of the expansion of the sphere being managed here. So that intent is also present. And I have to make sure that I'm not resisting it through tension. If I got tension in my shoulder, then I'm resisting that expansion and hardening. Instead, I want that power to flow freely through the tissues and manifest equally everywhere. some Zhuang, pose standing, hands on the dantian. This morning that's going to be the practice because I'm going to keep warming up my hands. We'll bring them in here and do the return to this for little bursts in between each practice that we do. This is also an excellent reminder to return to mental stillness, where we use the focus of the mind on the dantian, the concentration of intent just here, just holding our awareness. Don't worry about pinpoint accuracy, just feel the lower body cavity. Eventually you'll find that center point. And use it to guard against stray thoughts. Every time you notice your thought has grabbed your attention, bring it back to the lower dantian. wrists, and fingers. Other way. And the shoulders. Reverse. Open and close. Trunk twist from the center. Working your way up each side of the right and left channels. Central channel back down. Waist, the daimai, and the hips. Down the gallbladder channels on the outside of the leg. Liver channel from the middle to inside. Stomach channel front outside. Spine channel front inside. Bladder channel in the back. Kidney on the inside back. Waist rotations. Away. Widen your legs. Awareness goes down into the hips. Pull open the ball and socket joints. Small circles, one side. Other way. side. Other way. All of them working together. Other way. Alternating. Other way. Each leg individually. Rubbing the knee. Small circles. We're going to elongate the spine, press the knees back, lift the sacrum, flatten the back, and just extend. Just opening up those hamstrings and feeling the yin and yang channels from above and well, particularly up through the kidney channel, but all of the yin channels up into the torso, and then the yang channels from the head and the torso, back side of the body and the arms, back down to the feet. One side. Now, and 2 dragons circle the palm. Center, squat stance. Legs over the spine. Dragons. Do dragon rolls, celestial pearl, dragon roll and pearl exercise. So start with a good Jen Zhuang, hands in front of the lower dantian, and the elbows, bring it up to the level of the chest as though in Wu Ji, and shift and turn to the right, rolling that close hand back, far hand out. Receptive leg and expansive leg, right? We want to pay attention to how each part of the body has its own intent that joins together to one complete intent. So we've got this receptivity here, this expansion here, expansion here, those subtle rotations. There's a natural intent by the position. Make your intent match naturalness. That's the first thing. And the most important. What is natural? I should be receptive because I'm receiving weight and I'm turning inward. All right, so there's a gathering and bringing inward here that's natural to the position on this side. Same thing with the expansion on this side. Don't add to it beyond what's necessary for good structure. Have the sense of expansion, also of the sense of the sphere, this dynamic sphere, but also the compression of it into the dantian. Match all of that up. Meanwhile, maintaining zhongding. The yi, or mind intent, in Tai Chi that's perfect, is always just aligned with what's natural for the position you're in. It's perfect. You don't need to add to it or make it better. There's no making it better. It's perfect the way it is. We just have to recognize how we're in the way of that. Where our intent doesn't line up with what we're doing. Powerful lesson in that. When you can sense the way in which your intent doesn't align with what you're actually doing, you have to examine. Are you doing what you think you are? Is your intent correct? Here the intent is naturalness with the posture. And we shift and roll to the middle. This is a good one to catch, this middle intent. Back to the middle. On the other side. This should feel different than the other side because you're in the midst of a transition. This stopping is artificial in some ways. You should feel like you're continuing to be pulled that way and you're continuing to expand this way because that's the energy you set in motion, and we're learning to play with that intent until we're perfectly aligned with it so that the transition can continue. We're just taking a stopping point as a way of doing a check. Am I resisting the changing intent that's natural to the position? Let it expand until it starts to become dragon plays and clouds. Works. Back down to celestial coral, close to the bottom. And close. Okay. All right. Let's go through the short mirror form, the small mirror, and what we're going to do is we're going to kind of examine. We've examined structure, and that is the basis of intent. But remember, I'm going to just remind you of a few things that we're always trying to have this idea of this expanding sphere, right? This outreaching to receive and compressing to expand. They're simultaneous. There's this sense of condensing towards the center that creates a natural expansion. Right? This outreaching from the center that's part of that expansion is also receiving inward. That is always present. That has to be in the background behind everything else. So we start feet together. In this one, the sleeping dragon awakens to find the root is you're just kind of running through a meridian flow almost, and it's kind of a check. You're not trying to lead the chi. You don't need to lead the chi. Wherever you put your attention, the chi is going to tend to go anyway. So as you bring your awareness from your bubbling well point and sole of the feet up through the yin channels of the legs, into the pelvic floor, up through the tong mai, right, to the middle dantian and upper dantian, and up the yin channels, and then to the yin channels of the arms as you move up and out. There's going to be a natural chi flow. And then we're basically letting our awareness come up the yang channels of the arms, just as if we're doing meridian flow Qigong, and then back down the yang channels of the legs. So it's up into the head, and down and out. That's all this whole thing is. And it's basically, it's an encapsulated teaching of the meridian flow Qigong. It took me a long time to recognize that, because it wasn't spelled out for me like that when Dr. Qua taught me. So I've laid it out for you because I've discovered correlations, and I've discovered how valuable it was to put them together in this way. And that's where you should go. My experience of teaching is different, and I think learning is different. Dr. Qua grew up in China, where not as much is explained to the student. The student learns how to go and get and correlate things themselves. That's something we in our culture we haven't figured out how to teach in school quite so well yet, apparently, because I've encountered this with many Western students, myself included, that it took some time to learn how to do that. So, particularly with the body, I mean, we may do it in intellectual pursuits. We don't tend to correlate that to body learning in the same way. But We should. So tongue lightly touches the roof of your mouth, central equilibrium. Get a sense of suspending from above, down, awareness of the right and left channels, feeling the belly in all points, connection. Everything is nice and relaxed. If we inhale, we let our awareness go from the sole of the feet up to the channeling the legs. Taijiquan beginning. Left and left. Roll back. Cross. And another pouncing. Split. Cross the hands. Squeeze and press. Push. Two dragons seal the deal. Roll the hook. And hook with crane spin. Bump. Single bump. Catch and pull down. Deflect right. Cross. Step. Turn on the heat. Taiji reverse. Left right. Roll back. Another possible. Split right. Open left. And look to the left. Squeeze. Right. Two dragons seal the deal. Roll the forward with crane spin. Bump. And close. Now hopefully in there, as you started to flow through those, you started to feel that sense of the intention of that expand and condense, all working together. Outreach to receive, right? And compress to expand. Simultaneously, as you try to find the naturalness of each posture, I think you begin to see why standing in each posture for periods of time can be very helpful. Why dragon rolling pearl can be really helpful, because it forms the basis of learning how to examine these basic structures. Whether we're in this position from left, right, which we travel right through those, or we're in roll back, press. Working with naturalness in each of them. And split. We've got this receive and expand, right? We have to find the naturalness. Learn where your tensions are, drop them. Get the structure. Trust in the structure of the movement. Right? Then open. Notice there's things that when you start to practice with this naturalness, you start to notice things that are present. Right? Dragon rolling pearl. Even though my hands are in slightly different position, it's really still the same thing. Right? Okay, so what happens if I'm in this position? What's different? We use this as a basis for understanding this. As both the Qigong practice of it, as well as the martial art. There's all sorts of options. If you're moving, there's all sorts of options. So part of the practice is getting so familiar with the internal conditions as you move, so that your intentions are always augmenting your structure. Not in the sense of trying to improve it, but in the sense of making sure I'm with it, that the inherent structure has its natural power. Right? There's natural power here. And that all of my intentions are supporting that, not fighting with it in any way. Which is why we focus on things like not impairing our own movement, finding where we resist. This allows the internal and natural power of the body and its integrity and the natural chi to become the source of the power of the movement. And the chi, and then it exercises the chi as much as it does the tissues. Because the tissues are working too. I mean, try to hold your arm out like this for an hour. If you don't think that's going to be work, I invite you to give it a shot. Right? Once you learn how to do it, it's not terribly difficult, because you can learn to do it with the natural power of the body. All right. Anyways, close. Continue to work with that. You don't have to stop just because I'm stopping. Continue to work with the ideas I present to you. These are doorways. It is up to you to walk through them. That's all a class can be, is a doorway. It itself is only. It's not the lesson. The lesson is when you take what is presented to you and you work with it yourself. That's where the lesson happens. Right? You got to work with it yourself. Just following along is never going to get you Tai Chi. It's helpful, but it's not the same. Right? Even if it's just 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 2 minutes there, take something and examine it. Take the ideas. Notice how you're doing things when you're washing dishes, when you're mowing the lawn. Notice that. Am I fighting the natural process here? What is the natural process? What's the easiest way to accomplish this without fighting with myself? Can I use a natural power to do something as opposed to contractive force? Okay. All right. Shosha, thank you guys very much. And may you have many blessings of radiant health and a peaceful, happy heart.